Thanks for joining us. My name is Ibrahim Sani. We continue to talk about some of the new developments that is currently happening in the country and around the world. Today we shall talk about the green economy and perhaps even creating green jobs. Very recently, the Economic Minister Rafizi Ramli was talking about 10 to 20 catalytic new industries that is going to be birthed out of the two big master plans that has been introduced, the new industrial master plan 2030 as well as the new energy transition roadmap that plans to create new industries, new jobs, new sectors, new foreign direct investments that is going to be coming in to generate this kind of growth, which is definitely needed as we move away from hydrocarbon and of course try to rethink about carbon energy. Joining me in the studio is a good friend of the show, the Heriot Watt University Malaysia's Provost as well as CEO, Professor Mushtaq Alatabi. Prof. Mushtaq, I think let's move away from the sloganism, the NIMP 2030 or the NETR many more. Where do you see the real change is going to come in? Is it these swanky new master plans, or is there some weight that can be lent from this particular master plans and energy transition roadmaps?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize the importance of having a plan. And I think Malaysia has been really recognized worldwide for that ability to come up with very good blueprints, roadmaps, and plans. And I really mean it. You know, I speak to diplomats from other countries who told me that they go to our websites and download these things because they are, you know, quite holistic and quite very well thought through. Now, the challenge remains in the implementation, and I think that is something that we need to find our ways through. How are we going to implement? How are we going to bring these things to life? And also, how can we communicate these so the plans so that they remain able to guide us through as you know, things change and priorities and the environment changes and so on.
One would like to argue that Malaysia has too much plans and little execution or poor execution. Do you share that kind of belief?
Well, I think the implementation have been an issue. It's not easy to implement a plan, and I think this is something that I believe the country needs to improve on. But I think this should not be an excuse not to having a plan. I think
okay, see, that's what people are trying to get at, right?
Yes.
Oh, we have 10 plans, let's not have another one. That shouldn't be the thinking.
I don't think so, because look at what's happening now. Geopolitics are changing, demographics are changing, you know, AI technology is changing, absolutely, and sustainability becoming really, really, really important. So I think the plans that we had in the past, in my view, are not fit for purpose. So it's important to have a new plan, but I think also it's important to have a concise plan, you know, plan you could wrap your head around it. You know, for example, when I was looking at the plan with the 4 missions and I think 21 enablers and I don't know how many action plans, I was like thinking, what do we really need? I think what we need is productivity. I think that's really at the core of everything, so that we could pay better, so that we can improve the economy. Now, one good way to do productivity now is to focus on both sustainability and also the new technology, the AI and so on, because these are areas that almost every country is trying to find their way. So this is quite a nascent, quite a new area that Malaysia has the potential to be a leader at rather than a follower. So I think framing things around that could be probably a helpful way in summary, so that people can almost remember the plan rather than it's so large and so wide that by the time you finish reading you forget the first part of it.
Let's talk then about the impact of these plans. Assuming the execution can be done well, assuming that many of the objectives are met, are you that optimistic in this whole notion of 10 to 20 catalytic new industries or 500 new startups by 2024, another 500 by 2025. These are the slogans that the government is trying to portray. Get this done, we'll offer you all the assistance that you need, the plan is there, the people needs to be gotten, and we'll help you get the people. Are there any optimism in this kind of speeches? Do you feel that new changes are in the air for Malaysia?
Well, I'm an optimistic person by nature, and as an educator, I think it's also a duty for me, a responsibility to be optimistic. So I think there are many things that are going our way in Malaysia. But again, we need to get our act right. I think as an educator, I believe education, skills, and talent will be either the maker or breaker of the achievement of these goals and the ability to implement.
But Prof. Mushtaq, you fit into one of the triple helix or quadruple helix right now, which is academia. When we talk about this new energy transition roadmap, new industrial master plan, we're looking at high R&D requirements. We're looking at high training of talents requirement. Just take a look into the roadmap of an ETR. Energy efficiency, renewables energy, hydrogen, bioenergy, green mobility, carbon capture, just to name a few. There's many more in between. Do you think academia can catch up to fill this kind of requirements, not just in the talent development, i.e. the undergrads, but of course in the postgraduate development, the R&D, and how to monetize that? You're very familiar with the UK model, you're very familiar with the US model. They can monetize this. Many of the lecturers there are entrepreneurs, vice versa. They go back and forth between these two industries. Can Malaysia do that, i.e. monetize this or fit for purpose for the technology instead of this mad scientist situation where you create a fantastic research but zero adaptability on market, you can't really commercialize it?
So the short answer is yes. But I think we need to go back to basics. So for example, we talk about green economy and green jobs, and immediately people think of high-tech stuff, STEM and so on.
But that's what the Prime Minister was talking about, high growth, high value.
Which is true. As an engineer, I also, I love that. But let's go back to basics. So let me give you an example. Before we can go net zero, we need to be able to account for carbon. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Fantastic. So let's pick an example. I came to the studio, I drove today. The carbon that I burnt, is it on Astro? Is it on me personally? Is it on my university? Where would that carbon lie? I think this is a very important question, because if you were to calculate the carbon footprint for Astro and then you count only your lights and cameras and whatever, then my university counts only the thing that happens within its
boundaries.
Realm. So that movement, who is going to be responsible for? So I think the first thing we need is to educate accountants, engineers, and architects to be able to be carbon literate. So the notion of carbon literacy is such an important thing that actually, Harriet, what is leading on globally. So this is something is actually simple, yet is very difficult to deliver. Now look at Malaysia being a global center for shared services, accountancy and audits and other things. Now, for us to be able to build accountants, let's start with that, who are carbon literate and able to account for carbon. That in itself could be something that will make and put the country in such a special space within the region and maybe within the world. So this is one thing. Second thing, we talk about R&D, bringing it to reality and so on. There is a huge opportunity that Malaysia has. You know, we are one of the few countries that we have multiple foreign universities in. Currently, in my view, the most of the foreign universities, more than 10 we have here, Australia and UK and so on, we are focused on education, which is extremely important. I think, imagine if the country used us as foreign universities to connect with our
home countries, yeah, home campuses.
Absolutely, and use this as a bridge to bring the culture and also access to the high value research that's being done there. I believe that this is doable because the country invested so much in bringing all these foreign universities in. And also the country can work with our great local, public and private universities. So I feel the building blocks are here, and that's what gives me so much hope in Malaysia. The building blocks are here. We have highly educated people, English speaking generally, multilingual, all of these things very good infrastructure. All of these things we sometimes take for granted. Not every other country has those. So imagine if we add the notion, let's say we talked about carbon literacy, which in my view needs to be, a basic course for every student that studies in Malaysia. I think, imagine if we do this, I think that will be quite revolutionary.
When I did my undergraduate in accounting, there is not even we couldn't. It's not even in our thinking of having to be a carbon literate. This was 2004. Fast forward 20 years later to 2024, carbon literacy is a no-brainer to have inside the syllabus. How many of undergraduates taking up these subjects are putting it into their syllabus consciously?
So I believe that this is quite a new thing. While we all sort of understand that carbon literacy is important, I don't think it's yet an essential part.
Is it in your school, your business school?
Well, we are actually we are developing a course. We call it a carbon literacy course that we are going to run for all of our staff, students, and alumni. So this is what we are going to make available
and
to
your
all.
peers, I'm sure you speak to them a lot of the time.
Yes, there are other people who are thinking about it, and I think this is a non-competitive space because I think all of us need to come together and do it.
It's like mathematics.
Yeah. Yes.
You gotta.
So let's just do it. But again, you think about it. It's a simple idea. It does not require necessarily to buy new equipment, but it requires, for example, agreements on standards. You see, we have accounting standards.
Yes.
But we don't have, in my view, yet carbon accounting standards.
No.
And these are things we could be leaders at.
We don't have, but when I went to the Yayasan Hasanah event at KL event a few years ago, a few months ago, somebody pointed out at the conference saying that it took 200 years to get to a standardized accounting standard. 200 years. Yes. This started from the merchants in Portugal and insuring the people there, and then of course the insurance industry standardization, accounting standardization. He says that let's not kid ourselves, the green consciousness only came about only in the past few years. How can we then agree, okay, by 2023 or 2024, everybody can have the standardized green standard and khalas, everybody's done. You can't have that expectation. We must expect 10 to 20 years. But he does acknowledge that the urgency is there, the importance is there, and the consciousness of us getting that standard is there. So that is for the green standard. But what about these master plan, falling back to the master plans? I'm going to put you in a spot right now. Have you read the NETR or NIMP? Because I've only read the Cliff Notes, and I'm not reading the whole entire master plan. Have you gone through it? Did you see anything exciting about it? Where are the challenges that might lie in it, and so on?
So the short answer, can I respond to the first comment first, and I talk about whether I read the master plan or not. So I believe if it took us 200 years to reach this accounting standard, it should not, in my view, take us the same amount because we've learned a lot. Now, there is a graph that I really like that shows, from the invention of TV to everyone having a TV, it took us, 100 years. Then you go to telephony, it took us 50 years. And then it gets to Google, it took us, 1 year. And then Twitter gave us, 6 months. And now ChatGPT within weeks, there was like millions of people using it. I really think we need to think in that way. We can't just use the past as... We can learn from the past, but we can't use it as an obstacle to stop us from doing what needs to be done. So this is first thing. Secondly, do you know that Malaysia actually is one of the few countries that started in that, and we have a sort of a standard that we put forward. So actually there are a handful of countries that attempted to put something, and there is something out there that is with Malaysia stamp on it. So I think we are in a way leading here, and this is an area, in my view, we need to really grab and run with. Now, going back to the master plans, yes, I read it, and I'm actually quite excited by the headline. I'm excited by the moonshot thinking and the mission-based thinking. I think that is very important. I'm excited by its cross-sector initiative, which is very different from what we used to have before, where education is alone and other ministries are doing their own thing. I'm excited by the fact that we are seeing sustainability as not a cost, but something that could help us build, the economy. Now, when I go down to the clusters and so on, I know for a fact not all of it will necessarily work, because that's the nature of the plans. You put things out there and then you will see which one is going to work, and you double down. And that's why the implementation of this plan is actually almost, I dare say, more important than the plan itself. And we need to be willing and able to say not everything is going to happen. As you are implementing, a new technology will come around, and then something will happen. But the part that I'm feeling is missing is things around what I've mentioned to you, and they talk about skills and so on in its generality. But I think something like equipping every Malaysian graduate with carbon literacy capabilities, that is evolving. That course, imagine we come up, we have Mata Pelajaran Umum, MPU courses for all the students. They learn about history and culture and so on. And I think there's potential for us to make it a requirement for every Malaysian graduates to be carbon literate. And that course, we need to review it every year. So it evolves as we do this. I think that would, by 2030, we will be actually ahead of the rest of the world, and that would be something that we can do. And I don't think it's that difficult to deliver. It requires a will and resources, but it's much easier than bringing a very high-end R&D and bringing it to life.
A strategic intent that is simple might not necessarily be easy to do. I think people convolute the two together.
Of course.
And something that is complex can be easy to do.
Yeah.
Something complex can be, as long as everything
well,
can be done.
complex is always easy to deliver. I could put a million things on the table and I say, this is my plan.
The problem is in the beauty of the simplicity.
Yes.
And getting it done was so hard. I mean, Google's front page is simple, but it was so hard to do. This idea of, say, creating green jobs, for instance, it's simple, let's have environmental conservation specialists, or energy efficient engineers, or renewable sector specialists. These are green jobs.
Yes.
That, as I say it, of course we need that. Of course we need, environmental conservation specialists and so on. To create that, however, is something else. To equip the talents to get to that stage is very, very, very difficult.
But Ibrahim, we need new thinking here, exactly there. You see, the moment we say you are an environmentally specialist engineer, I think we failed, in my view.
Okay.
I think everyone, whether you're doing history or geography, and especially accounting, architecture, engineering, this needs to be embedded within the capabilities that we are instilling in you. And I totally agree, simple is never easy. It's actually very difficult. But we are talking about moonshots, and we are talking about something that potentially Malaysia can be the first country in the world to do. I think there's a freshness to this, and I think the resources to deliver this wouldn't be prohibitively expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. It requires that we all come together and agree. So imagine the next time, maybe before you invite me to speak, we agree the carbon is on who? And maybe instead of buying me coffee, you say, Mushtaq, I'll pay you for your carbon, or I'll absorb your carbon, or then I think it will change our behavior. It will change our language. And I think that is both education and leadership.
What about regulation and policy? Is it going to be something like, I hate to say it, but Singapore, where you have these regulations, you have penalties if you don't meet those regulations, and then people comply? Or are you going to have a Scandic model where people take it upon themselves? It is a cultural thing for you to be a little bit more conscious, and you can just self-regulate amongst the populace. Which one comes in?
I think both of them are needed, but definitely in the beginning you need the policy, you need the enforcement, and I think again, I know that Bursa is having their standards.
Yes.
This is not something that we haven't done anything at. And we have seen in the past, when we decide that we need something, we need it 30% women on the boards. We put that in. We give the companies a sort of a timeline, and eventually it happened. It happened this year. So I think I'm actually quite optimistic about all of that. Now, at the same time, particularly the new generation, they are more environmental sort of wary and also aware than the older generation, and I think this is the direction to go. Now, add to all of that, from a business point of view, when the convergence happen so that it makes a business sense. I think if I don't burn petrol, this will be, money isn't in my pocket. So it will make sense from that point of view. So there's a cultural sort of imperative. There is a business imperative, and of course there is a policy and regulation and enforcement imperative, and all of them have to work together. And I think only then we can produce a model that actually the world would love to copy and emulate.
Let's talk about self-belief, which is, the way I see it, is a challenge for the country to overcome. You have folks that are optimistic, and there's a reason, there is a method behind your optimism. You have clearly outlined this with us for the past 10, 20, 15 minutes. The rest of the country might not necessarily be as optimistic as you. Where do you see a sense of belief instillment coming into the society? Is it from our political leaders? Is it from our business leaders? Is it folks like you, educators, folks like me? How do we ensure that this optimism can be permeated across the society?
Well, first of all, I feel that optimism, or real optimism, would come from a deep sense of purpose. I think the driving force behind us, ultimately, why you go out of bed and you come and speak, and it's purpose. And I think this is something that we need to, to instill in our youth. And I am, a huge advocate for even teaching purpose and preparing people.
Go through it again, because there are many that just joined us for the first time today. I think Harriet Watt's purpose mission is very, very critical to be discussed again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Whenever there is change, someone needs to drive it, and it starts, I believe, at a personal level. And the story I keep on telling, Ibrahim, is that when I go to an open day and I see students who just completed their SPM, and I ask them, how many of you are not sure what to do next? 90%, 95% sometimes of the hands go up. Now, why our youth are not sure what to do next? And this is, by the way, not just a Malaysian kind of thing. It's a global trend. So there is research now that shows that our young people really do not know what to do with their lives. They lack a clear sense of purpose. And that's why we decided at Harriet Watt University that we educate professionals who are not only academically excellent, but they are fully aware of what is their purpose and what brings meaning to their life.
That's why that whole sense of purpose, as you train people to build their own purpose, you believe that that can solve that whole idea of self-belief, and they can go out and overcome challenges and deliver green job initiatives, green economy initiatives, and many more.
And even world peace, by the way.
Yeah.
So I believe that when we have that sense of purpose, now, of course, we need strong leadership. We need, a leader that we can trust, a leader that is honest and clean and capable. And also we need educators who bring all of that to life. And we need to media leaders who bring attention to all of this. Of course, we need all of that. But I think ultimately, if you were to ask me, Mushtaq, say everything that you want with one word, that one word would be purpose. Because if we don't have, you see, if you don't have a sense of that we'll be here for the next 20 or 50 or 100 years, why would you want to fix the environment if we have no faith in our future? It's actually the fact, I think even those who are less optimistic, I think it's because they have faith in the future. So if I were to have a conversation with them, maybe I could help them find their own sense of purpose and then find a better way to produce an alternative. Because it's very easy for me to say, well, that would never work, that plan would never work. where is the alternative? I think it's about putting an alternative on the table and getting people to believe in that and to believe in themselves first. And I think you are right, you are on the dot. That self-belief and self-faith is so important for our success at an individual, family, society, country, region, and even eventually the world.
Final question, Prof. When we talk about influencing others, I believe that we need to help ourselves first, then we need to help our immediate family members, and then we need to help others around us, and then finally help people that might not necessarily know who we are, right, and affect change. Do you believe in this concentric circle kind of help, where you start with yourself, help yourself first, make sure that you can fix your own oxygen mask first before you can do other help with other people?
Absolutely. I think this is really the only way to effect change. I think without we changing ourselves first, the change will be always artificial. So the government could come and let's say, enforce, the traffic rules.
Yeah.
Now, then, when there is a policeman, will behave in a certain way. You remove the policeman, you go back to. But if we do things because we believe in them, because we believe they're good for us, I think that's when genuine change will happen. And I think this is important for our health, for our mental health, for the world peace, for the growth. And I think at the end of the day, that's what education is all about, and that's what leadership is all about.
Final comment on the green economy as well as green job, Prof?
Well, I think this is the way to go. I believe let's start small while attracting big things. Let's start with the simple ideas. And I would advocate for the carbon literacy course to be a requirement for every government official, for every student, for every staff. And I also would like to advocate for an impact statement, finding purpose for every government official, for every staff, for every student. And I think when we do both of these things, some great stuff will happen.
Impact statements, of course, you can find out more about that conversation. Just search for Harriet Watt on astro.com. We discuss at length in terms of how to find the meaning and the purpose of what you do, your intent. That is a conversation that needs to be had again and again, I believe so. Of course, carbon literacy is also something that we need to look at very, very closely. I would consider myself to be carbon illiterate. But I have the idea of what needs to be done in terms of trying to upskill myself in that form of literacy. So do check that out. We're going to be talking about carbon literacy across this channel in the many months to come as we discuss more about the NIMP as well as NETR. Also find out more about the past interviews on Harriet Watt on astro.com. Just search for Harriet Watt or HWM on astroawani.com. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Catch you in the next one.